Anyway, more of those calls to come in a little while. But first of all, Tamer Asfahani is a founder of Checkpoint Kids, former journalist, and came up with interactive video games for kids and how to learn. Tamer, good morning.
Good morning.
Right, so explain to me about the games that you have created. I mean, I wish these had been around when my son was learning, because this would have been the perfect way for him to learn.
Well, we don't actually create games. We create lesson plans around already existing games.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that we do is, one of the big problems within school and within the schooling system is that children are expected to learn things like Shakespeare and Chaucer and all these kind of archaic measures of education, which don't really speak to children. They were never written for children. They were written at a different time with a different mindset. So for children to even understand that, it's very difficult for them to do that. So what we do is we change that kind of access point to learning, and we replace things like Shakespeare's text with Mario or Sonic or Roblox or Fortnite. And what we do is we create these learning opportunities within these lesson plans that are all free around the video game characters. So the attainment targets for the national curriculum all are still adhered to, and they all still hit them. So teachers can look through our lesson plans and go, oh yeah, actually we're hitting, you know, how to write a letter, or how to use adverbs, or frontal adverbials, as was a famous thing during the lockdowns. So all of these things are in there, and we just use video games as an easy access point. When the government talk about levelling up education, they talk about Latin. We talk about digital literacy in the future, and we talk about actually making learning accessible to everybody. So we use video games.
Okay, now I obviously my brain doesn't work quite as brilliantly as yours does, so I'm going to have to ask you a few sort of very, very basic questions here. I mean, first of all, a statement from me. I've always been very disappointed that schools tend to teach in a linear fashion, that every child is taught in the same way, and unfortunately not every child learns in the same way. So the idea that there is this other way is just very, very exciting. Too late for my son, who's doing fine now, but school was tough because he didn't see why he should learn in the same way as everybody else. He was very bright, but just like bored. So tell me how Fortnite, for example, not that I know it, helps if you're trying to learn Shakespeare. Explain that to me.
Well, it's not about learning Shakespeare. It's about learning things like being, well, for example, Fortnite's great because you've got a digital economy. So you've got to learn what resources you need. You've got to learn how you're going to collect those resources, how you're going to spend your resources. These are all things that you apply in real life, in real terms, not algorithms that you wouldn't necessarily use. Or I say algorithms, algorithms is a bad example because everything's run on algorithms. But the idea of quadratic equations, for example, or things like that you would have done at school that aren't relevant to real life. What video games teach you are a multitude of things. And I mean, video games, Checkpoint exists because we look at the impact of video games on education, politics, culture, and society. So, for example, we do issues on big data. How is big data dealt with in the real world? How are games representing big data? What are we learning from games? Are games telling us something? Are things that are already happening? Can every car be hacked into? And the answer is yes. So it's not about learning Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the cultural capital. So I suppose if you're in Britain, you're going to learn Shakespeare. But if you're in, I don't know, the Seychelles, Shakespeare isn't going to be part and parcel of your curriculum, right? And this is what we need to do, is we deal with these bigger issues, things like the climate changes, things like the poverty, global poverty, and, socioeconomic issues, and this rising to extinction. There needs to be a level playing field that everybody understands. And that has to start with education. And if children are disconnected from learning, then they're not going to be inspired to go off and learn. So what we do using the lessons is, hey, you do maths all the time. You do it in Roblox, you do it in Fortnite, you do it in all of the games that you play, and you apply maths. That's the applied maths. So these are the things, these are the skills that you use in real life. So what we do is we enhance that experience and use the video games to kind of
That's
show
so
people.
clever. I mean, genuinely, that's really, really clever. Because, like you say, you sit a kid down in front of you know, a book with mathematics in it, and they'll go, I can't do this. But then explaining to them that they do that, and if they imagine themselves to be that character and these words, so the maths teacher presumably could then write the maths questions out in a way.
Well,
that
we
reflects...
provide the lesson plans.
Oh, right, you provide
already.
everything.
So we provide fully assured, quality checked lesson plans that hit the national curriculum for free. And what we do is, because they're quality assured, we know they're written by a former head of literacy and former head of numeracy. You know, so these are Ofsted outstanding teachers that we've got, so they know how, but our pedagogy is different. And what we're trying to do is equip the children that actually, if there's a problem, go off and learn about it. Go off and research it. Don't just take what you're given. Go off, and you've got the tools now. If you've got the tools to run around in Fortnite or Roblox, you've got the tools to go and double check a news story, or you've got the tools to double check a fact that's been told you, or to find out. Children are sponges. They will sit there and watch YouTube. They will acquire skills. And it's not about screen time. It's not about stopping them being on screens. That is their future. That's where it's going to be. Metaverses exists, blockchain exists, Web3 is coming. All of these things are where the children are going to be in the future. They're going to be working in jobs that don't even exist yet. And we have to prepare them for it. And the only way to prepare them is to make sure that they're all on a level playing field and they understand the world in which they're moving into and how to interact and protect themselves and further learn in the world that they're moving into.
And how has this been received generally by parents? Because I may have taken a bit of convincing that my son playing Mario Kart was actually good for him. So have you managed to convince parents of this and just say, no, hang on a minute, this is what your son is actually learning by playing that?
Yeah, there's two kind of angles here. We never, with our learning materials, we don't ever actually endorse the need to play games. So you don't actually need a video game. You don't need to play the game. So we never encourage or endorse gaming in class, because that's not what this is about. This is about taking that access, that cultural capital, that understanding of that character, and using that for learning opportunities. And in answer to your questions, yes, we have done this. We've done this with a couple of schools already, with a number of schools. But it's not, we don't just write the lessons, we then create a connection for the children to the games industry or to the wider industry. One of the key things that we do, for example, the last lesson that we did was a Sonic lesson. It was a design and technology lesson, and it was for year sixes, and they sat there and they designed for the new Sonic game a new Wisp, which is a little thing that helps enhance Sonic on his journey, or a Dr. Robotnik or Eggman device that will then capture. And they had to think about the materials they'd have to use, and all of this hits the national curriculum. At the end of it, these are children that wouldn't engage, they call them pupil premium in schools. So these are low privilege, socioeconomic, low ability children. And within seconds, they switched on. We've got a video that you can see on our website. And they created these amazing designs that then they presented. We hooked them up with the executive producer of Sonic.
Wow.
And then they presented their designs to the guy that's in charge of Sonic. So what we try to show them is that this isn't just about being a YouTuber. Video games has a plethora of jobs in it. You know, you could be a sound designer, you could be a marketeer, you could be an accountant, you could be a level designer, you could be the legal side of things. Whatever it is that you want to do, there's a job for it in the video games industry. But video games also informs everything that we do, whether it's gamification or user interfaces or whatever it is that we do. So we try to make that connection. Another example is we had the children speak to the European Space Agency. So they spoke to the guy flying the solar orbiter and the head of mission, because we hooked them up with a video game called Mars Horizon that looks at planning space journeys and what they would need to do. We've had them speak to roller coaster tycoons, or roller coaster engineers, people that have used video, and all of these people that we speak to, not only are they the developers, but the people who are in industry have used video games to get to where they are. So these astronauts and these space people have used Kerbal Space Program, Mars Horizon, you know, the roller coaster engineers have used Roller Coaster Tycoon. So there is a real path, and that's what we're trying to show them.
I mean, it's amazing. It feels like this should have been done a long time ago, doesn't it?
It's been spoken about for a very long time. The first studies into this started in the 90s, and the benefit of gaming has been around for a long time. The government in 2015 brought out a white paper to say, the House of Lords actually brought out a paper to say that there should be digital literacy, and since then we've just gone down and down and down and down. Scotland are doing it, which is great. Wales have started now. England are far behind, and digital literacy has been made into just being safe online, and it's so much more than that.
You mentioned about poorer children with a lower engagement. Is your plan are your plans poverty proof, you know, in terms of children who may not have access to anything digital at home, and that this may be the first time they've ever thought about a digital plan?
So we teach digital literacy using analog techniques. That's kind of our strap. So the idea is that you don't need a console, you don't need a PC. All you need is to print out or look at the materials that we give you, and you just work through them then. So what we're not doing is developing games or trying to kind of develop a whole new way. What we're trying to do, every child knows Sonic, every child knows Mario. That is the access point. Give them that access point and make them understand that what they do in video games is something they can apply to in real life. So they don't need that digital. Sonic, Mario, Roblox, Minecraft, all of these things transcend video games. They are in popular culture, whether they are in merchandise, whether it's music, whether it's TV shows, whether it's, you know, fan art, whatever it is, children see them, they know them, they don't need to play the game, and that's what we're kind of capitalizing.
And if there are teachers listening to this and they go, do you know what, that sounds exactly what I might need, how do they go about accessing lesson plans by you guys? And do they have to, you know, first of all speak to their headmaster? Do they have to speak to the parents? How does this work?
Yeah, I mean, we always advise that teachers look at the lesson plans. They are fully resourced, and teachers, when they look at that, I mean, everybody that we've had teachers using it for their NPQML, which is kind of the qualification needed to go into management and middle management. So they've used this stuff. So we do know they're there, but they're available for free on checkpointkids.com. There's a whole set of lessons that we've done for teachers, and in those lesson packs, you get the lesson outline, you get all of the PowerPoint slides, so you can literally plug and play them. You get all the worksheets, you get all the answers. So everything's there. It tells you what attainment targets you're hitting for the national curriculum. We don't ask you to sign up because we don't believe that you should be the product. You are not the data, so we don't take your data. So it's all available and it's all there for free. And for those that are teaching at home, we do for education otherwise. So for those that are homeschooling as well, we have packs and projects for children to work on and do at home for them with little help from their grown-ups, so they don't need necessarily to have their grown-ups sit there.
God, there'll be so many people after that whole homeschooling thing wishing they'd known about this a bit earlier. Did you ever imagine that you would go into education? I mean, you were a journalist, weren't you? I mean, you're not unknown on this floor in this building. So did you imagine that you'd end up doing this?
This was a response to the pandemic. I mean, I'm still a journalist. I mean, the Checkpoint Learning, which what we're talking about, is a very small part of the wider Checkpoint brand. So no, I didn't. I mean, what happened was we were thinking about doing a kids magazine for the summer in 2019. So we were planning at the end of 2019 for 2020 in the summer, we'll do a kids magazine, because the magazine we have magazines, we have podcasts, we have bedtime stories, we have a metaverse VR, we have all of this, and they're all free. So we thought, well, what would be good is to kind of show parents and children that actually working together and playing and showing an interest in children. Screen time isn't a bad thing, so we'll do a magazine for the summer. So we started planning it. The pandemic hit. I have 2 children, and so I decided to put the magazine out sooner. And in that, there was an opportunity to do some learning. So I got my old boarding master who started writing the lessons for us, and then they just kind of went on fire, and we've been in multiple schools since. Wow. And yeah, they've done. I never thought I'd go into it, but this was something that needed to be done, and the quality of education during the lockdown became very clear that children. It's not the school's fault. Schools don't have the infrastructure, they don't have the support, and it's not about the schools or the teachers who have done an incredible job. It's about the government not making enough of an effort to try to kind of bring everybody up. And they've just said they want to level everybody up. Well, the government's idea of leveling everybody up is teaching them Latin, and
yeah, that's not really helped me very much. It's good to talk to you. Well done. Congratulations. I wish this had been around a while ago. But Tamer Asfahani there, who's a founder of Checkpoint Kids. Stay with us. Your call's next.